In the remote northern reaches of Norway, nestled deep within the Arctic Circle, lies a landscape sculpted by ice and time. This is the Rana region, a place of stark, unforgiving beauty where the winter sun barely crests the horizon, casting long ethereal shadows across a world blanketed in white. Here, beneath this vast expanse of ice and snow, hidden from the casual eye, lies a secret world, a gateway to the planet's deep geological past. It is an entrance that appears as little more than a dark scar on the frozen earth. A simple wooden sign marks the spot, Plura Grotta, known in English as the Plura Cave. To descend into its depths is to enter a realm of staggering, almost alien beauty, a place that balances its breathtaking allure with immense ever-present danger. This subterranean marvel was carved over countless millennia by the relentless flow of the Plura River, which patiently dissolved its way through the soluble ancient limestone and marble bedrock. The result is a complex network of passages that wind for over 2 kilometers underground, a sprawling labyrinth of both air-filled chambers and completely submerged tunnels. Inside, the cave system is a gallery of geological art, showcasing magnificent marble formations, and in winter, surreal icy tunnels where the frozen breath of the surface world meets the dark water below. Its waters, fed by glacial melt, are not just cold, they are brutally, dangerously frigid. The temperature remains at a near freezing 2 degrees Celsius or 35 degrees Fahrenheit all year round. This extreme cold is not merely uncomfortable, it is a constant threat, capable of causing equipment to freeze and fail and rapidly draining a diver's strength and body heat. Plura Grotta also holds the title of the deepest cave in northern Europe, with sections plunging to depths of over 130 meters. This depth makes it a siren call to the world's most audacious and highly skilled technical explorers. For the global community of cave divers, Plura Grotta is a legendary destination, a bucket list location that tests the limits of human endurance and technology. It attracts more adventurers than any other cave in Scandinavia, each drawn by the promise of exploring one of Earth's last true frontiers. The reward for braving the crushing cold is the cave's extraordinary clarity. On a good day, the water is so pure that a diver's powerful light can cut through the darkness for more than 20 meters or 66 feet, revealing the colossal scale of the chambers and the intricate details of the rock. But the cave does not give up its secrets easily. It is a place that demands absolute respect, meticulous skill, and an unwavering, almost meditative focus. Every dive here is a calculated risk, a meticulously planned expedition into a realm where the rules of the surface world are utterly irrelevant. Here, survival is not measured in hours, but in minutes of available gas, in precise decompression stops, and a single, seemingly minor mistake, a snagged guideline, a malfunctioning valve, a moment of disorientation, can have immediate and irreversible consequences. The silence beneath the ice is profound, a heavy, pressing quiet, broken only by the rhythmic mechanical sound of a diver's breathing. Each inhalation, a precious resource. Each exhalation, a reminder of the fragile thread connecting them to life. The cave feels ancient, primordial, and utterly indifferent to the fleeting presence of human visitors. For those who enter, it offers a rare and humbling glimpse into the vastness of geological time. Yet, this profound beauty conceals a deadly potential. The narrow passages, known as restrictions, can be so tight that divers must remove equipment to squeeze through. The extreme depths bring the risk of nitrogen narcosis, a disorienting intoxication that impairs judgment when it is needed most. And always, there is the brutal, relentless cold, a constant enemy that saps energy and focus. These challenges combined can overwhelm even the most seasoned experts. Plura Grotta is a place where the thrill of adventure and the finality of tragedy are separated by the thinnest of margins. But for true explorers, the allure of the unknown is a powerful, irresistible force. In February of 2014, during the deepest cold of the Norwegian winter, a team of 5 Finnish divers stood at the edge of this frozen abyss, their breath misting in the frigid air. They were not novices seeking a thrill. They were seasoned experts, part of an elite global fraternity of technical cave divers. More than just a team, they were close friends, bonded by years of shared experiences, and a mutual passion for exploring the world's most challenging and remote underwater environments. They had trained for this. They had planned for this. They believed they were prepared for any eventuality. It was supposed to be a routine traverse, an ambitious but achievable dive through the cave system, a definitive test of their collective skill and endurance. But the cave had other plans. Not everyone who descended into the darkness would come back. This is their story. If you're fascinated by real-life survival stories and the unyielding power of the human spirit, make sure to subscribe to our channel. We are dedicated to sharing true stories from the depths and the peaks, exploring the moments that define both unimaginable courage and profound loss. The plan was audacious, bordering on the impossible. In the heart of a Norwegian winter, with surface temperatures plummeting far below freezing, they aimed to conquer a subterranean giant. This wasn't just a dive. It was an expedition into the Earth's hidden veins, a place of profound beauty and unforgiving danger. The team of 5, a brotherhood of Finland's most elite technical divers, had travelled to this remote corner of Norway for one reason: Patrick Gronkvist, the meticulous planner; Harri Huotarinen, the seasoned veteran; Vesa Rantanen, the calm anchor of the group; Harri Usimaki, known for his quiet strength; and Kai Kankanen, the youngest, but no less experienced. Together, they intended to complete a full traverse of the Plura cave system, a feat few had ever attempted, and even fewer in the brutal conditions of winter. Their journey would begin by descending through a small hole cut in the surface ice of the Plura River's resurgence pool. From there, they would navigate a labyrinth of submerged tunnels for more than half a kilometre, a silent alien world of sculpted rock and absolute blackness. The goal was to emerge in a dry air-filled cave called Steinugelflaget, high up on the mountainside, before hiking back down. It was a grueling 5-hour journey from entry to exit, a marathon of endurance and precision. The route would force them to the cave's deepest point, pushing to depths over 130 meters, that's 430 feet, where the water temperature hovered just above freezing and the pressure is 14 times greater than at the surface. To cover the vast distances efficiently, each diver was equipped with powerful underwater scooters, or DPVs, allowing them to conserve precious energy and gas. They relied on closed-circuit rebreathers, sophisticated devices that recycle exhaled air, scrubbing carbon dioxide, and adding precise amounts of oxygen. This technology allowed for extended dive times and optimized gas consumption, but it also added layers of complexity and potential failure points. This was a tight-knit group, forged by years of shared passion for extreme diving. They were more than a team. They were a family, bound by an unspoken trust that is essential when your life depends on the person next to you. They understood the immense risks and had meticulously planned every detail, from gas mixtures to decompression schedules. Every contingency was discussed, every emergency procedure rehearsed. Their equipment was state-of-the-art, a collection of the best gear money could buy, each piece a critical component in their life support system. Their training was extensive, honed over countless hours in less demanding environments. They had protocols for catastrophic equipment failure, for becoming separated, for a diver becoming incapacitated. They were acutely aware of the insidious effects of nitrogen narcosis at great depths, a phenomenon often called the martini effect, where every 10 meters of depth is said to feel like drinking one martini on an empty stomach. At 130 meters, the impairment could be profound, slowing thought and distorting judgment. As they prepared their gear on the frozen surface, their movements were a display of focused professionalism. Each action was deliberate, each piece of equipment checked and double-checked. They were confident in their abilities and, more importantly, in each other. They were ready to face one of the ultimate challenges in the world of technical cave diving. Like the mountaineers who scale Everest or the astronauts who venture into space, these men were explorers, driven to push the boundaries of human capability. These men were no exception. They were drawn to the silent, dark places of the world, the final frontiers on our own planet, untouched by most of humanity. For them, the Plura Traverse was more than just a dive. It was the culmination of years of training, a testament to their shared dedication and obsession. But in this environment, there is no margin for error. Even the most skilled and prepared divers know that one small oversight, one piece of failing gear, or one moment of impaired judgment can lead to a fatal mistake. Yet the pull of the deep, the allure of the unknown, is a siren's call, often stronger than the rational fear of the consequences. With final checks complete, they slipped one by one into the black, icy water, leaving the world of light and air behind. They were entering a realm of profound isolation, their only connection to each other and to the way out being a thin nylon guideline. The journey ahead would test their physical limits against the crushing cold and immense pressure. It would test their mental fortitude against the disorienting darkness and the ever-present risk. And in the hours to come, it would test the bonds of their friendship in a way none of them could have ever imagined. In the heart of the mountain, where the weight of rock and water exerts a pressure almost 14 times greater than at the surface, a simple mistake can be the difference between life and death. For the Finnish dive team, that moment was about to arrive. Deep within the Plura cave system, at a crushing depth of 130 meters, the team was navigating the most challenging section of their planned route. The water temperature hovered just above freezing, a constant seeping cold that leached warmth from their bodies despite their heavy-duty dry suits. Here, the world was reduced to what their powerful lights could reveal, a narrow, unforgiving fissure in the ancient rock. They were operating at the very edge of human endurance, relying on complex closed-circuit rebreathers that recycled their breathing gas, a technology essential for a dive of this magnitude, but one that carried its own unique and insidious risks. The passage, known as the Steinugel-Floget restriction, had narrowed significantly, forcing them to move in a slow, deliberate single file. The rock walls pressed in, so close that a careless movement could dislodge their equipment or stir up clouds of silt, blinding them in an instant. Communication was limited to hand signals and the silent language of experience, reading a teammate's movements and the rhythm of their exhaust bubbles.
Jari Huotarinen, an experienced and respected cave diver, was at the front, his light a beacon in the oppressive dark. He was the tip of the spear, carefully negotiating the tightest point of the restriction. Directly behind him, Patrick Gronkvist kept a watchful eye, his own light illuminating Huotarinen's fins and equipment, ready to assist at a moment's notice. They were a well-practiced team, moving with a familiar, synchronized grace.
Then, in this claustrophobic passage, the first, almost imperceptible sign of trouble appeared. The steady forward momentum ceased. Huotarinen suddenly stopped, his progress halted. For a moment, Gronkvist might have assumed it was a routine pause to check gauges or adjust buoyancy. But the stillness stretched for a few seconds too long. The silence, usually a comfort in the deep, began to feel heavy with unspoken tension. Huotarinen tried to move forward, then backward. The smooth, efficient movements of a moment before were gone, replaced by short, urgent jerks. It was clear he wasn't just pausing. He was well and truly stuck. A piece of equipment, likely the tow cord for his underwater scooter, or perhaps a bailout cylinder valve, had become entangled on a sharp, unseen rock protrusion. It was a common problem in the tight confines of cave diving, a frustrating but usually manageable inconvenience. But at this depth, under this immense pressure, any delay was dangerous. Every second spent struggling increased physical exertion, which in turn accelerated the consumption of both oxygen and the CO2 scrubber material in his rebreather. The physical struggle triggered a physiological cascade. Huotarinen's breathing rate, visible to Gronkvist by the quickening pace of his exhaust bubbles, began to spike. This was a critical danger sign. On a rebreather, the diver's own lungs power the circulation of gas through the system. Rapid, shallow breathing doesn't just waste energy. It fails to push the exhaled gas fully through the CO2-absorbing chemical scrubber. As a result, the carbon dioxide level in the breathing loop begins to climb. This condition, hypercapnia, is a silent killer. It impairs judgment, causes severe headaches, and creates a suffocating feeling of air hunger, which only drives the diver to breathe faster, creating a deadly feedback loop that ultimately leads to panic and blackout. Huotarinen was caught in this vicious cycle. Gronkvist, watching his friend's frantic movements, recognized the signs of extreme distress. The problem was no longer a simple snag, it was a full-blown medical emergency. He had to act decisively. Unclipping one of his own bailout cylinders, a separate tank of gas running on a traditional open-circuit system, he moved as close as the passage would allow. The idea was to get Hutarinen off the compromised rebreather. Switching to the open-circuit bailout gas, which would vent his exhalations directly into the water, would immediately flush the excess CO2 from his system and hopefully break the cycle of panic. It was a desperate, high-stakes maneuver. Performing a gas switch in zero visibility, under extreme psychological and physiological stress, and wedged inside a rock coffin 130 meters underwater, is one of the most difficult procedures a diver can face. But in the process of changing breathing apparatus, the worst possible thing happened. In his panicked, CO2-impaired state, Huotarinen's coordination was failing. As he removed his rebreather mouthpiece to accept the bailout regulator from Gronkvist, his body's primal urge to breathe took over. He inhaled. Instead of the life-giving gas he so desperately needed, his lungs filled with the frigid black water of the Plura cave. The effect was immediate and catastrophic. The shock of the icy water triggered an uncontrollable laryngospasm, his airway slamming shut as his body convulsed violently. For Gronkvist, time seemed to warp, stretching into an eternity of horror. He was mere inches away, helpless, as he watched his friend and long-time diving partner die in the most brutal way imaginable. The violent struggle lasted only seconds before it ceased, replaced by an awful, final stillness. The man who had led them into the cave with such confidence was now a still form, lifeless in the narrow passage he had failed to clear. He had become a permanent part of the cave he loved, and in doing so, had become an immovable obstacle. The initial tragedy had struck, but the disaster was only just beginning. The path forward was blocked. The only way out was back the way they came. But behind Gronkvist, the other three members of the team were still waiting, their lights glowing anxiously in the dark, unaware of the horror that had just unfolded. They were all trapped deep inside the mountain. The retreat was chaotic. Gronkvist, in shock, had to maneuver around his friend's body. The silt kicked up by the initial struggle had reduced visibility to zero. As the remaining four divers began their desperate ascent, another crisis was unfolding in the darkness. Police would later theorize that Jari Usimaki, the fourth diver in the line, seeing the commotion and the silt cloud ahead, and perhaps already suffering from the effects of nitrogen narcosis at this extreme depth, panicked. In cave diving, the guideline is your only lifeline to the surface. To lose it is to be lost forever. In his terror, Usimaki may have become separated from the line, or perhaps made a fatal navigational error while trying to find a way around the blockage. Somewhere in the dark water, alone and disoriented, Jari Usimaki perished. The team of 5 was now a team of 3. The 3 survivors, Gronkvist, Kai Kankkonen, and Vesa Rantanen, pushed toward the distant promise of air and light, completely unaware of the second loss behind them. Their journey back was a living nightmare, a slow, arduous ascent through the freezing blackness, haunted by the knowledge of what lay below and driven by the primal need to survive. Their dive computers, strapped to their wrists, screamed with digital warnings. The unplanned time spent at depth dealing with the emergency had consumed a critical amount of their breathing gas. The screens flashed red. Deco violation, low gas. They were running on fumes. To avoid decompression sickness, or the bends, a diver must ascend slowly, making mandatory stops at specific depths to allow the inert gases absorbed by their body tissues under pressure to safely off-gas. Their dive plan had called for over 4 hours of decompression. Now, they didn't have nearly enough gas for that. They were forced to shorten their stops, a terrible, agonizing gamble. Each minute they cut from their decompression dramatically raised the risk of crippling or fatal decompression sickness, where gas bubbles form in the blood and tissues, causing excruciating pain, paralysis, or death. They faced an impossible choice: remain at depth and certainly run out of air, or race to the surface and pray they survive the physiological consequences. They chose the latter, a desperate bet to simply reach the surface alive. The 3 remaining divers finally broke the surface. They had descended as a team of 5 confident explorers. They surfaced as 3 shattered survivors. The original 5-hour dive plan had turned into a grueling 11-hour ordeal. All 3 men were suffering from severe decompression sickness, causing excruciating pain and neurological damage. The 3 survivors were airlifted to Tromsø University Hospital, and rushed into a decompression chamber for emergency treatment. The Norwegian authorities called on an international team, which included British divers Richard Stanton, John Valanthan and Jason Mallinson, to recover the bodies. After reconnaissance diving at the site, the operation was judged too difficult. The risk of losing more lives was deemed unacceptably high. The official recovery mission was called off. Authorities seal off the cave, declaring it too dangerous for recovery. The mountain became their grave. Families are heartbroken. The victims' bodies are left entombed beneath the ice, until someone decided that couldn't be the end.
I told the widow that we would go and get them.
I told her that they are not going to be left there, that we would think of something. Hypothermia, decompression sickness, the same narrow tunnel that killed their friends. They would operate in complete secrecy, smuggling their gear across the border into Norway. The act of cutting the police tape was a symbolic and irreversible step. They descended again into the black water, retracing the same fatal route. Working with his partner, they began the delicate, grim process of freeing the body. After a tense search, they found him. Against all odds, they found and recovered both bodies. It's one of the most dangerous recovery dives ever completed. Finally, after a grueling 6-hour operation, the first body bag broke the surface. The team then made an anonymous call to the Norwegian police, informing them that the bodies were waiting for them at the side of a nearby road. Human bravery and the obsession with the unknown endure here. In the darkness beneath the ice, they found not only their fallen friends, but the true limits of courage. The documentary Diving into the Unknown was later made about this mission. The film, directed by Juan Reyna, uses footage captured by the divers themselves, offering an unflinchingly honest and intimate look at their ordeal. The story serves as a somber reminder that in the contest between humanity and the raw, ancient power of the planet, nature often has the final say, but it also shows that in the aftermath of loss, the human capacity for courage, loyalty, and compassion can shine with a light that penetrates even the deepest darkness. If this story moved you, subscribe for more true documentaries from the world's most dangerous places.
Beneath New Jersey's murky Atlantic, a shadow waits. It's U-869, a lost World War II U-boat. Wreck divers chase clues through cold, green darkness. Today, we cover one of wreck diving's most tragic stories. Make sure to subscribe to catch future videos like this. 60 miles off the coast of New Jersey, the water is a dark, murky green. Visibility is a luxury. Today, it is barely 10 feet. Bubbles rise in a frantic, silvery column. They are the only sign of life in this crushing, silent world. Each breath is a loud, mechanical rasp. The sound of a diver's regulator. It is the only sound that matters down here, this deep, this far from the sun. The pressure is immense. It squeezes the body. It plays tricks on the mind. A single beam of light cuts through the gloom. It is a diver's torch. It sweeps back and forth, a nervous pulse in the darkness. The light catches swirling particles, marine snow, a constant blizzard of debris from the world above. It dances in the beam, making it hard to focus, making it hard to see what lies just beyond its reach. The diver descends slowly, carefully. Every foot deeper is a step into another realm, a world without color, a world without warmth, a world where mistakes are not forgiven. The surface feels a million miles away. It might as well be on another planet. The silence is broken by a faint, rhythmic sound. Ping, a sonar echo. It comes from the support boat, far above on the rolling waves. Ping. It is searching, mapping the unseen. The sound travels through the water, a ghostly messenger. It paints a picture of the seabed on a screen. But screens are for the surface. Down here, there is only what the light can touch. The diver is a small, fragile figure in a vast, indifferent ocean, floating in endless suspension, waiting, searching. The cold gnaws at exposed skin. It stiffens the fingers. It makes every movement a conscious effort. This is not a place for the living. It is a graveyard, a place where things are lost, forgotten. The ocean keeps its secrets well. It guards them with pressure, darkness, cold. To come here is to challenge the natural order. It is an act of sheer will, an act of defiance against the crushing weight of the sea. The diver continues the descent, deeper and deeper, into the heart of the abyss, drawn by a mystery, pulled by a question that has no easy answer. What lies at the bottom of this cold, unforgiving sea? The pings continue, a steady, haunting heartbeat in the deep. The sonar paints a picture. It is a crude image, a grainy sonar view, a long, dark shape on the sandy bottom. It is man-made, there is no doubt. The shape is unnatural, a foreign object in a desolate seascape. For years it was just a rumour, a fisherman's tale, a snag on a net, a ghost on a depth finder. Local divers gave it a name, U-Hoo. The name was a question. U-boat? Who knows? A mystery wrapped in steel. Lying at a depth that tested conventional diving, 230 feet down, a place where the sun never shines. Its identity is a puzzle. No records showed a submarine lost here. Not an American one, not a German one. Naval historians were stumped. Archives were silent. The wreck shouldn't be here. Yet there it was, a silent, steel tomb. Secrets locked away, guarded by pressure and treacherous Atlantic currents. Many had tried to explore it. Few had succeeded. The depth was extreme. The conditions were brutal. The wreck is a maze of jagged metal, tangled wires. It did not give up its secrets easily. Reaching the wreck is only the beginning. The real danger lies within. Exploring the interior is a different challenge. Not just diving. Cave diving in steel that's slowly collapsing. Tight passages. Darkness absolute. Silt covering every surface. One misplaced fin kick can stir it up. It creates a total blackout. Getting lost is easy. Finding your way out can be impossible. Entanglement is constant. Wires hang like spider webs. Sharp edges wait in the dark. This place demands perfection. For years, U-Hoo was legend, a challenge for daring wreck divers. The Mount Everest of the East Coast. Identifying the wreck would solve a historical mystery. It would give a name to the ghost ship. It would tell the story of its final moments. It would honor the men who went down with it. But the price of that knowledge was high. The ocean demanded respect. You, who had already proven it could be deadly to those who did not give it. Enter Chris and Chrissy Rouse, father and son from Pennsylvania. They were not your average weekend divers. They were driven. They were meticulous. Some would say they were obsessed. For them, diving was not a hobby. It was a calling, a way to push boundaries, a way to explore the last unknown frontiers on Earth. They were drawn to the most difficult and dangerous wrecks, the ones nobody else could conquer. The U-Hoo was the ultimate challenge, an unidentified World War II submarine, lying in deep, dark water. It was a mystery that was tailor-made for them. They had one single-minded goal. They would be the ones to identify it. Chris, the father, was a veteran diver, a pioneer in the world of technical diving. He had a reputation for being fearless, for pushing the gear and himself to the absolute limit. Chrissy, his son, was his partner, his equal in the water. They shared a unique bond, forged in the crushing depths of the ocean. They planned their dives with military precision. They customized their equipment. They rehearsed every step. They left nothing to chance. Their teamwork was seamless, a silent language of hand signals and shared glances. In the hostile environment of the deep, they moved as one. Their quest to identify the U-Hoo became an all-consuming passion. It dominated their lives. They spent countless hours researching, studying naval archives, talking to historians. They spent thousands of dollars on equipment and boat charters. Every weekend was dedicated to the wreck. They made dive after dive, each time going a little deeper, staying a little longer, pushing a little further into the submarine's dark interior. They were searching for a clue, a single piece of evidence, anything that could give the U-boat its name back. A manufacturer's plate, a serial number, a personal effect from a crew member. This was more than just a dive. It was a historical expedition. They were not treasure hunters. They were underwater detectives, piecing together a puzzle that had been lost for half a century. They knew the risks. They understood the danger better than anyone. At 230 feet, nitrogen narcosis, the rapture of the deep, could cloud judgment. Decompression sickness, the bends, was a constant threat. An equipment failure could be fatal. But for the Rouses, the pull of the mystery was stronger than the fear, the obsession to know, to discover. It drove them deeper and deeper into the heart of the Yoo-hoo. In 1992, the push toward the engine room was one of the Rouses' most ambitious goals. Located in the aft section, it was the vessel's powerhouse. It housed the massive diesel engines. It housed the electric motors. It was a place of extreme noise and heat when the submarine was alive. Now it was a place of extreme silence and cold. In the engine room, they noted manufacturers' plates on the MAN diesel engines. Chris signaled Chrissy. They documented locations and markings carefully, working through grime but keeping their focus on recording evidence. A wire brush revealed the MAN logo and partial serials, strong clues of German manufacture, not a hull number. They photographed and logged everything, preserving details for later research. They had a lead, small, stubborn clues buried deep in the most dangerous confines. Enough to suggest a German U-boat, but not the final identification. For the Rouses, it was a hard-won step forward. They had pushed further, risked more, and gathered evidence others could analyse. The swim out felt like progress, not the finish line, but a breakthrough worth the risk. They had stared into the abyss, and the abyss had blinked. As they exited the hatch and began their ascent up the anchor line, the mood was euphoric. They had been inside the wreck for over 20 minutes, a dangerously long time at that depth. They thought about the research that awaited them on the surface. The long, tedious decompression stops that awaited them on the line felt like a minor inconvenience, a small price to pay for the historic discovery they held in their hands and in their minds. Victory was sweet. Inside the steel maze of U-869, Chrissy squeezes through a tight passage and becomes trapped. A snag, a wrong turn. Silt erupts. The world turns to grey. He flashes a frantic light signal. Chris sees it and goes back in, father for son, partner for partner. They fight the wreck and the clock. Lines, wires, jagged steel. Gauges dip low, breaths grow shorter. Pressure, metal, and time close in. They free the jam, but the gas is nearly gone. There is no margin left, only one choice. They bolt for the exit, leaving careful plans behind. A rapid, uncontrolled ascent begins. No proper stops. Physics does not forgive. They reach the surface far too soon. On the surface, chaos. Shouts, dragging bodies over the gunnel. Chrissy loses consciousness within minutes. CPR, oxygen, desperate hands working against the clock. Chris is alive, confused, in agony, hit hard by decompression sickness. Bubbles rip through blood and tissue, the bends made real. A mayday, a race to shore. The Coast Guard coordinates. Every minute matters. The boat pounds through chop toward the dock. Urgency on every face, urgency in every movement. At the dock, paramedics, a stretcher, ambulance doors slam. Sirens answer. In the recompression chamber, pressure rises, and hope with it. Protocols engage, time stretches. But for Chrissy, it is too late. The damage is done. He is gone soon after surfacing. Chris fights through the night under constant care. But despite treatment, he dies the next day in the hospital. 2 lives bound by courage and obsession, claimed by the sea. The monitors fall silent. The room goes still. The cost of 1 entrapment, 1 rescue, 1 panicked ascent, paid in hours. Panic, entanglement, gas management, decompression. In the deep, discipline is life. Fear is fatal. The ocean has the final say. Remember their skill. Remember their love. Remember the lesson. For Chris and Chrissy Rouse, U-869 was the last dive. A war grave and a warning. In the stillness after, The sea keeps its silence, and we keep their memory. In the aftermath of the tragedy, the evidence that Chris and Chrissy Rouse had collected was not forgotten. Other divers, including John Chatterton, took up the task of finishing their work. The process was slow and difficult. They had to cross-reference obscure parts lists and engine manufacturing records, but finally, they found a match. Later, other divers located and photographed artifacts, parts stamped with the number U869. Cross-referenced with engine and parts records, the match was definitive. The ghost ship finally had a name. History had to be rewritten. The official record stated that U869 had been sunk by Allied warships off the coast of Gibraltar in the Mediterranean. The discovery off the coast of New Jersey proved this was wrong. The discovery provided closure for the families of the German crewmen, who for 50 years had believed their loved ones were lost in a different ocean. They had mourned them in the wrong ocean. The discovery also fostered an unlikely connection between the American divers who found the wreck and the German families of the men who died on it. John Chatterton and others who continued the research travelled to Germany to meet with surviving relatives. They shared the story of the discovery, showed them underwater footage of the submarine, and presented them with some of the artifacts recovered from the wreck, such as the German-made dinner plates. These meetings were emotional, bridging a gap of decades, nationalities, and the lingering shadows of war. The discovery transformed an anonymous wreck, the Yoo-Hoo, into a recognized war grave, a memorial to the 56 men who remain entombed within its steel hull. Chris and Chrissy Rouse risked everything for discovery. They were driven by a passion that few can understand, a need to know what lay hidden in the dark, cold waters off the coast of New Jersey. Their quest was not for gold or treasure, but for a piece of history. They chased a ghost ship and, through extraordinary bravery and meticulous documentation, advanced the search. Later, divers confirmed U869 with artifacts stamped with its number. The Rouse's work paved the way, correcting a decades-old error, a story later chronicled in Shadow Divers, proving that forgotten truths can still be found by those willing to look in the deepest, darkest places. If you love true survival stories and deep-sea mysteries, subscribe now for more real-world explorations brought to life.
Boesmansgat, also known as Bushman's Hole, a deep freshwater sinkhole in the northern Cape of South Africa. Its circular entrance drops through dolomitic limestone into shadow. A still surface pool leads into a vast vertical cave system. The site sits near 1,550 meters above sea level, high altitude for diving. That altitude complicates decompression planning and gas strategy. It is among the world's deepest known freshwater sinkholes. Beyond a tight restriction, the shaft opens into a massive chamber. Dives here demand exacting training and strict procedures. Errors at depth can be unforgiving. Darkness, depth, and cold amplify even minor problems. In 1994, a tragedy here set the stage for what followed. Dion Dreyer, a young South African diver, was lost during a dive. Despite searches, his body could not be recovered at the time. A decade later, Australian cave diver David Shaw took interest. In October 2004, Shaw descended to about 270 meters, around 886 feet. On that record dive, he located Dreyer's body near the bottom. He surfaced with a plan for a careful recovery operation. The mission would require specialized equipment and staged gases, and it had to account for high-altitude decompression obligations. Veteran diver Don Shirley led on-site support and logistics. A formal recovery was scheduled for January 2005. Roles, guidelines, lighting, and contingencies were clearly defined. Every buckle, every regulator, every checklist mattered. At this depth and altitude, margins are razor-thin. This is the documented context for what unfolded at Boesmansgat. The plan is exacting, rehearsed to the second. They will drop on closed-circuit rebreathers toward the main shaft. Riding the shot line, they clip to the permanent guideline deep into the system. Dave dives a modified Mk 15.5 rebreather on helium-based trimix. Bailout cylinders are staged along the route. Working time at depth is minutes. Total runtime will stretch for hours. High altitude and extreme depth dictate a long, unforgiving decompression schedule. Helium trimix cuts narcosis and gas density for safer work at depth. Redundant electronics and manual controls back up the loop. And iron discipline, breathing, buoyancy, and task load never wavers. Every tool is staged with intent. Reels, markers, bailout regs, nothing spare. Their lives depend on scrubber efficiency, oxygen supply and bailout gas, and on lights that must not fail in the dark. Above all, the thin guideline, touchstone and lifeline will lead them home. It is their only connection to the world of light and air. One by one, they slip beneath the surface, Dave the recovery diver, Don coordinating support and decompression. Topsides and at shallow stops, the support crew tracks times, gases, and the ascent plan. Below, a profound quiet takes hold. Only mission time and depth matter now. The soundscape is spare. Soft valve clicks, faint loop murmurs, measured breaths. Solenoid ticks and rare bubbles mark a controlled CCR descent. Below them, the cave floor falls away toward a ledge near 270 meters. Dave flashes an OK. His beam finds the line, his hand never leaving it. Cold bites through the suit, sharpening focus as workload rises with depth. It's a cold that sharpens the senses and slows the breath. He is ready, tasks primed, timings tight. He is focused. CO2 risk, work of breathing, and gas windows in mind. Ahead lies the threshold, minutes to work at depth, and a long, high-altitude decompression to pay. The descent at Bohze Moonsgat begins in a vast shaft of limestone, a world of cold, dense water and darkness that deepens with every foot. Names don't matter here, only depth, discipline, and the plan. The chamber is enormous, carved over geologic time, but at these depths, the water is very dark and cold. Visibility can be crystal one moment and arm's length the next, filtered by the rock, yet betrayed by the finest silt. Light travels only as tight, white cones. Beyond them, black water swallows everything. Every decision is measured against time, depth, and gas. Limestone walls drop away in pale contours, mineral scars and ledges marking the ancient flow. No theatrics, just geology and gravity, falling into a silty floor that waits for the careless. David and his team keep movements small and slow, fins still unless necessary, hands close to the line, keeping the water calm. Every kick is a controlled frog kick, every trim correction deliberate to avoid waking the silt. In this place, restraint is safety. Method over momentum, calm over curiosity. Their route is pre-briefed. Movements are slow, clip to the plan, hold the guideline, monitor the shot line, maintain spacing, avoid contact with the floor and walls. This is muscle memory, years of practice distilled into quiet efficiency. Neutral and in trim, they hover in the water column. Beams sweep in coordinated arcs, each diver tracking the other's lights and positions without a word. The communication is light, touch and timing, planned, practiced and precise. There is no improvisation. All actions on the line are pre-agreed. How to pass, how to signal, how to stop. The rule is simple. Follow the plan, protect the line. Ahead, the permanent guideline drops toward the lower chambers. Beside it, the shot line, a lifeline to the surface. Between them is certainty, away from them is nothing. The profile steepens and space tightens. They clip, check, and proceed along the established lines toward the bottom zone, where the silt is thickest and time windows narrow. Every meter deeper increases the cost of a mistake. At a threshold, David pauses, gauges, timers, set points, confirming runtime and gas. He is calm. He is on plan. Depth increasing. Pressures stable. Gas mixes verified. The window for work at the bottom will be short, and they all know it. The goal remains unchanged. Execute, conserve, return on the line. The team closes to a safe, brief regroup. Touch signals confirm status on the guideline. OK, proceed. This is a go, no-go, agreed in advance, executed in seconds. Then they move, one after another, exactly as rehearsed. Committing deeper makes turning back slow and complex. Depth, decompression, and geometry conspire. Only the plan and the lines make retreat possible. Total discipline is the price of progress. They are a chain, each diver watching gas, time, and the line, each one responsible for the other. Ahead is a tight restriction, no names, just rock and water, demanding slow, careful passage. Here, speed creates problems. Small motions, steady breathing, and clear protocols keep the water still and the team together. The space fits a single diver with side-mounted cylinders and a rebreather. Tanks tucked, elbows in, body streamlined to slip through without touching silt or stone. Contact stays on the guideline, index finger riding the cord, the other hand ready for signals. Buoyancy is measured in millimeters. Heart rate low, movements economical. The goal is to leave the water exactly as you found it. Anything else risks the floor, and the floor is silt. One careless kick, one surge of air, and the cave's hidden guardian wakes. Silt turns visibility to 0 in seconds. Silt is the quiet danger here. A fine, flour-like powder that coats every surface near the bottom of Beau Hazard Mun's Ghat. Disturb it, and clear water becomes an opaque cloud. In a silt-out, light is useless, and only the line remains. This is why they brief touch and line protocols before the dive. How to find, hold, and follow the guideline when sight is gone. David checks his team. OKs exchanged by light and by touch. The spacing is right, the plan is intact. They continue. No words needed. The line speaks for them. He turns toward the deeper drop, beam pinned to the guideline and shot line. With a deliberate signal, he leads the way. The team follows, one at a time, exactly on the cord. He trims a breath, sinks a fraction, and advances hand over hand on the line. No fin wash, no surge, just inches gained in silence. The walls press close, the psychological weight rising with the physical pressure. He keeps his world small. Hands, line, gauges, nothing else. Focus narrows to the task and the ticking clock. The guideline is texture under his glove, a thin certainty in a vast dark. It is the map, the compass, the way home. David reaches the target zone near 270 meters, close to where he had previously seen Dion Dreyer. The working window is razor thin. Every motion is calm and methodical to keep the silt asleep. The guideline and shot line remain his lifelines back to light and air. The point of no return is behind him. From here, discipline is everything. Beyond the squeeze, David's light settles on a still form. He confirms Dreyer's remains, pauses, and begins the recovery exactly as planned. He unrolls the body bag, clips the toe point, and starts methodically securing what he can reach. Every motion is slow, deliberate, minimizing disturbance, maximizing control. Task loading rises. Primary guideline, exploration reel, recovery line, and the bag must all be managed at once. Line discipline becomes the dive. As he tensions the bag, it lifts, twists, and settles. A loop brushes hardware on his harness. Tiny puffs of silt bloom around his hands, veiling the scene. Visibility narrows to a tunnel of light. He repositions, checks clips by touch, and continues the wrap, steady, careful, precise. The work is hard. At this depth, on a rebreather, elevated exertion drives carbon dioxide up, hypercapnia risk that blunts clarity and control. He tries to clear the snag without cutting, finger-walking the bundle, tracing each strand, protecting the body and the plan. The bag shifts again. Line cinches. In the shuffle, his contact with the main guideline slips. He is now bound to the bag and the recovery line. He pauses to reset, checks time, checks breathing loop, forces the pace down. Even so, the work of breathing down here is unforgiving. He resumes, but the recovery line and bag collar have wrapped around an arm and a valve. Untying costs time. Every second matters at this depth. Silt thickens. His light halos back off the cloud. He works by touch, pinch, slide, backtrack, patient, methodical, aware of the clock. Entanglement tightens at his wrist. The bag stirs with small currents, tugging the bundle of lines in unpredictable pulses. He weighs the knife against the plan, cut lines and risk losing the body or keep working the snags. He chooses the slower path, still trying to preserve the recovery. Effort spikes, CO2 climbs. Breathing feels heavier. The mind narrows. Decision-making degrades in small, dangerous steps. He sweeps for the guideline, no contact. He tries again, nothing. The local cloud has swallowed the reference of the world. Tiny grains keep lofting off the floor and the bag. Each brush of a glove blooms another curtain, turning near into far. This isn't a single failure. It's the stack, extreme depth, entanglement, silt, and the work of breathing under task load, each one sharpening the edge. He keeps working the bundle, but the window is closing. Decompression obligations mount. Time, once elastic, becomes hard and short. The cloud thickens to near-zero visibility. His light becomes a pale disk. He is now trapped by line and bag, still trying to free himself. He works by touch to the last, glove on cord, cord to clip, clip to snag, circling the same problem in a world made small. The bag moves again. The lines answer back. Each motion steals a second he cannot afford. Silt blooms into blackness. The guideline remains unfound. The world contracts to the noise of breathing and the weight of line. In moments, everything is obscured. He is still with the body, still entangled, and his margin is gone. His light scatters and dies in the cloud. There is no path by sight, only touch, and touch yields only knots. Just feet away, teammates exist and then don't, erased by the silt, separated by darkness and time. The guideline, his lifeline, does not return to his hand. The bag and line hold him. The clock holds the rest. He is alone, working the problem to the end. Depth presses. CO2 weighs on thought. The silt makes a small world smaller. When the time window closes, he has not regained the guideline. Extreme depth, entanglement, and the work of breathing have done their quiet, terrible work. In the ink-black silt out, Don Shirley and Rick De La Rosa stayed on the guideline. Training overrode panic. Find the line. Stay on the line. Communicate by touch. The exit began. Slow, deliberate, hand over hand. Their world shrank to the width of braided nylon and breath. Tactile signals replaced sight. Squeeze for OK, a tug for hold. The line was certainty in a storm of liquid earth. Don led, Rick followed, maintaining constant contact. Then the cost began to show, severe vestibular symptoms and mounting distress, the legacy of depth and earlier gas loss. They held formation and kept moving for the exits and the decompression clock. Every few feet they paused, listening, feeling, for a third hand on the line. None came, only the cold hum of bubbles and the silent pull of the cave behind them. The silt thinned to brown, then green haze. Decompression obligations grew heavy. Don's symptoms worsened, but discipline held. The mission shifted from exploration to survival. They cleared the restriction into clear water, the ballroom, where visibility returned with a shock. No third light followed. The call was clear. No immediate re-entry. It would risk 3 lives, not save 1. They searched the edge of the gloom, nothing. With gas and physiology dictating their limits, they began the staged ascent, methodical and silent. Gauges told the story, lost gas, tight margins. Don was compromised. The third's rule was now a lifeline. The only safe choice was out. Dive computers flashed hard limits. Decompression stops were mandatory, and any return into the silted restriction would be a death sentence. The team stood down and prepared for a long, disciplined exit. The water column became a waiting room. Minutes stretched at each stop, while Don reported symptoms by touch and slate. Rick monitored and signaled topside for medical readiness. At the surface, the transition was surreal. Don was transferred for treatment and later survived, though he suffered a severe vestibular and decompression injury. There would be no hasty return. The next steps would be careful, coordinated, and professional. Word spread quickly. The cave diving community mobilized, friends and peers arriving with skills, logistics, and quiet resolve. Emergency services were notified, but within this discipline, the first responders are often the divers themselves, coordinating with authorities, aligning a plan that puts safety first. A command post took shape before sunrise. Roles were assigned, contingencies mapped, timings calculated. The mission shifted to recovery, with dignity and precision. Don and Rick, exhausted, debriefed every detail: flow, visibility, last knowns. The plan that emerged was cautious, methodical, and built to avoid creating new casualties. On a subsequent operation, the recovery team descended through familiar waypoints into a recently scarred memory. The ballroom, silent and waiting. Past the restriction and into haze, a splash of color appeared. The bright yellow of David's exploration line, snagged on an outcrop. Following the filament through the murk, a searching hand found mass. David Shaw. Nearby rested Dion Dreyer. The team worked with care, documenting, stabilizing, and preparing a dignified return. Both men were recovered with solemn precision. David's video camera was retrieved as well, the record that would later confirm an entanglement and an overwhelming task load cascade in zero visibility. The ascent was slow and deliberate, every movement measured, every stop observed. Professionalism did not waver. Respect guided the work. At the surface, the handover was quiet and reverent. Later, the footage confirmed the story the cave had written: entanglement, silt, and impossible workload. What remained was dignity, teamwork, and a community that took care of its own. In the aftermath, the community assembled a precise timeline and root cause analysis: facts over blame, lessons over opinion. It began with a regulator free flow that drove an instantaneous silt out and separation. At extreme depth on CCR, risks compound. Elevated work of breathing, CO2 retention, and heavy task loading can erode capacity fast. A secondary rebreather fault completed the cascade. Analysis aligned with the recovery team. David Shaw did not panic and did not err in judgment. Multiple low-probability failures converged under unforgiving conditions. The incident became formal curriculum. Case studies, drills, and updated standards focused on mitigating stacked failures. Training shifted to managing multiple simultaneous problems: gas, buoyancy, navigation, and communications under stress, in sequence and in parallel. Line discipline is non-negotiable. Entanglement management, continuous contact, clean tie-offs, and limiting tasks at the deep work site to what is essential. Planning for altitude caves is critical. Decompression at elevation significantly extends obligations and shapes gas, thermal, and surface support plans. CCR at depth demands conservative set points, verified scrubber duration, clear bailout strategy, and strict task limits to preserve awareness. Redundancy matters. Independent lights, gas and navigation, practiced hand signals and touch contact. Decisions lean conservative, with predefined abort criteria. The community doubled down on mentorship, line drills, equipment checks, and scenario practice, repeatable processes that hold when visibility and time vanish. David Shaw's legacy lives in safer protocols, in divers he trained, and in the enduring commitment to bring Dion Dreyer's story to rest with dignity. He ventured into the darkness to return a son to his family, and his example anchors how future teams plan, brief, and act. If these lessons help you, share them. For more true accounts and training insights, subscribe and add your perspective below. Stay curious, stay conservative, stay safe.
Beneath a calm pond in Hernando County, Florida, lies the entrance to a deep cave system. Divers call it Eagle's Nest, scenic at the surface, but conditions here can be unforgiving. A calm surface hides a narrow entrance, the chimney, that leads into Eagle's Nest sink. Sunlight fades quickly at the lip. Beyond it are tunnels and large chambers filled with clear groundwater. Many explore here for its geology and scale, but incidents at this site have included fatalities. With depth, pressure rises, gas is consumed faster, and options for ascent become limited. Light diminishes to near zero. Navigation depends on training, equipment, and the guideline. Exceptional visibility can be deceptive, affecting judgment of distance, depth, and safety. The surface feels like a sanctuary. Below is complex overhead terrain. Memorial markers at cave sites acknowledge the cost of errors and reinforce caution. If you want to understand this site and its risks, stay with us as we proceed step by step. Eagle's Nest, calm above, demanding below. Our careful descent begins now. Eagle's Nest is not just another dive site. It holds a legendary status within the tight-knit community of cave divers. It has earned a formidable nickname, the Mount Everest of cave diving. This comparison is not made lightly, just as Mount Everest represents the pinnacle of mountaineering achievement. Eagle's Nest represents the ultimate test for underwater explorers. It is a place reserved for only the most skilled, experienced, and prepared technical divers. The title serves as both a badge of honor and a stark warning of the extreme dangers that await. The allure of this underwater Everest is powerful and multifaceted. For elite divers, it is the challenge itself that calls to them. The cave system is incredibly deep and complex, with passages that plunge to more than 300 feet below the surface. Navigating these submerged tunnels requires an extraordinary level of training, specialized equipment, and unwavering mental fortitude. It is a high-stakes environment where there is virtually no room for error. The desire to conquer such a place, to see what few have ever seen and return safely, is a powerful motivator. It is a quest for personal achievement, a way to test one's limits against one of the most hostile environments on Earth. But the pull of Eagle's Nest goes beyond the mere technical challenge. The cave possesses a rare, haunting beauty that captivates those who venture inside. The sheer scale of the chambers, the ancient limestone formations, and the profound, silent darkness create an otherworldly experience. Divers speak of floating through colossal rooms, their powerful lights cutting through the blackness to reveal walls that have been untouched for millennia. It is like exploring another planet, a hidden kingdom sealed off from the world above. This combination of extreme risk and profound beauty creates a magnetic pull that many find impossible to resist, drawing them back time and time again despite the known dangers. This reputation, however, is built on a history of tragedy. The very factors that make Eagle's Nest so appealing are the same ones that make it so deadly. The extreme depth, the complex layout, and the psychological pressures it exerts on divers have led to numerous fatalities over the years. Even seasoned experts, individuals with thousands of hours of dive time, have succumbed to its depths. The site has been closed and reopened several times, with each incident reigniting the debate over its accessibility. Its nickname is a constant reminder that, like its Himalayan counterpart, Eagle's Nest demands respect and does not forgive mistakes. It is a place where the pursuit of glory can end in absolute silence. The story of Eagle's Nest begins long before humans ever strapped on scuba tanks. It is a story written in stone, deep within the geological heart of Florida. The state's landscape is built upon a foundation of porous limestone, a remnant of ancient seas that once covered the region millions of years ago. Over eons, acidic rainwater seeped through the soil, slowly dissolving this soft rock and carving out a vast and intricate network of underground rivers, tunnels, and caverns. This subterranean world is known as the Floridan Aquifer, one of the most productive aquifers in the world, holding the fresh water that gives life to the state. Eagle's Nest is just one stunning and particularly deep window into this hidden hydrological system. Located in the Chassahowitzka Wildlife Management Area in Hernando County, the site remained largely unknown to the outside world for much of its existence. It was a secret kept by the dense cypress swamp, a quiet pond hidden away from roads and civilization. The local geography played a crucial role in its isolation. The surrounding wetlands are a maze of tangled vegetation and marshy ground, making access difficult. For centuries, it was simply another feature of the primordial Florida wilderness, its placid surface giving no indication of the immense void that lay beneath. It was a place known only to the birds that nested in the tall cypress trees, the occasional hunter or naturalist. The entrance to Eagle's Nest itself is part of its geological deception. Unlike many of Florida's springs, which feature large, open basins, Eagle's Nest begins as a relatively small, unassuming pond. Below the surface, the opening narrows before plunging dramatically into the darkness. This formation is a classic example of a cast window, where the roof of a much larger underground cavern has collapsed, creating a direct connection to the surface. The result is a feature that looks like a simple sinkhole, but is in fact the gateway to a system of immense scale and complexity, rooms the size of auditoriums and passages that snake for thousands of feet into the earth. This unique geology is what sets the stage for the human drama that would unfold here. The incredible depth, reaching over 300 feet, is far greater than that of most Florida caves. This depth, combined with the crystal-clear water filtered by the limestone, creates an environment of both unparalleled beauty and extreme danger. The ancient stone walls, untouched for millennia, hold a silent record of the Earth's history. But they also form a labyrinth that can disorient and trap even the most experienced explorers. The very geological processes that created this natural wonder also forged it into one of the most challenging and unforgiving underwater environments on the planet. The exploration of Eagle's Nest began in earnest with the advent of scuba diving. In the mid-20th century, as pioneers like Jacques Cousteau were opening up the underwater world, a new breed of adventurer was born, the cave diver. These were individuals driven by a unique thirst for exploration, eager to venture where no one had gone before. In Florida, with its thousands of springs and sinkholes, they found a new frontier. Early cave divers were true innovators, often using modified or homemade equipment to push the boundaries of their sport. They ventured into the dark, water-filled passages of the aquifer with little more than courage, a single tank of air, and a simple reel of line. Eagle's Nest quickly gained a reputation among this small, daring community. Its remote location and challenging depths made it a prized objective. Early explorers who first descended into its maw returned with incredible stories. They spoke of a colossal main chamber, which they named the ballroom, a space so vast that their lights could barely reach the far walls. They described descending through the chimney, a vertical shaft that dropped into the profound darkness of the lower levels. These first-hand accounts painted a picture of a place of sublime, almost terrifying grandeur. The stories spread through the diving community, whispered in dive shops and at post-dive gatherings, turning Eagle's Nest into a legend. These pioneers were charting the unknown with every fin kick. They were the first to lay the permanent guidelines that future divers would rely on for navigation, painstakingly mapping the twisting passages and deep chambers. Every foot of line they unspooled was a step into territory no human had ever seen. This was exploration in its purest form, fraught with peril. The risks were immense. Equipment failures, getting lost, running out of air were constant threats. In those early days, the knowledge of deep diving physiology was still developing. Divers were learning the hard way about the dangers of nitrogen narcosis and decompression sickness, often through tragic trial and error. The efforts of these early explorers laid the foundation for everything that followed. They not only mapped the physical layout of the cave, but also began to understand its unique personality and its specific dangers. Their legacy is a double-edged sword. On one hand, their courage and discoveries opened up one of the world's most spectacular underwater caves for others to experience. On the other hand, the very legend they created, the stories of its incredible depth and beauty, would become an irresistible siren song. This allure would draw generations of divers to test their own limits, contributing to the site's growing and often tragic history. Section 3. The Lure of the Unknown. For the modern technical diver, the lure of Eagle's Nest is complex and deeply personal. It is not simply about seeking a thrill, it's a passion at the intersection of science, exploration, and personal challenge. To dive Eagle's Nest is to join an elite club, to prove to yourself and your peers you've mastered the highest levels of the sport. The preparation is immense, hundreds of hours of training, a deep understanding of physics and physiology, and highly specialized expensive equipment. The dive is the final exam, a test of all that knowledge and preparation, in an environment that offers no second chances. The primary draw is exploration itself, the fundamental human desire to see what lies around the next corner or at the bottom of the next shaft. Inside Eagle's Nest, that desire is amplified. The cave is not a single tunnel, but a three-dimensional maze. Beyond the well-known ballroom and the main passages, there are side tunnels, smaller restrictions, and deeper sections that remain largely unexplored. The possibility of discovering a new passage, of being the first human to ever lay eyes on a specific part of the planet, it is the ultimate prize. A feeling akin to an astronaut stepping onto a new world, a profound connection to discovery. Then, there is the unparalleled beauty of the abyss. The water is often so clear, divers feel they are flying through vast, dark spaces. When their powerful lights illuminate ancient limestone walls, they reveal intricate textures and formations sculpted over countless millennia. In the deeper sections, the silence is absolute, meditative, almost spiritual. A world removed from surface noise, a place of profound peace and solitude. Many divers speak in reverent tones, humbled by the scale and age of the formations. Extreme challenge plus profound reward. A powerful magnetic pull. Mount Everest of cave diving, not just a warning, but also a challenge. It beckons the most ambitious and skilled to test their mettle. The risk is an inseparable part of the appeal. The knowledge that a single mistake could be fatal sharpens the senses, and demands a level of focus and presence hard to find elsewhere. For those drawn to its depths, Eagle's Nest is not a death wish, it is a life-affirming quest. To push the boundaries of human potential and experience a hidden world of breathtaking silent beauty. Section 4, a place of controversy and closure. The history of Eagle's Nest is tragically intertwined with a long list of fatalities. Since its discovery by the diving community, the site has claimed the lives of more than a dozen divers, earning it another, more somber nickname, the Diver's Tomb. These were not just novices who wandered in unprepared. Highly experienced cave instructors, technical divers with thousands of dives under their belts, explorers who were intimately familiar with the cave system. Each death sent a shockwave through the tight-knit diving world, serving as a brutal reminder that in an environment this extreme, experience is not a guarantee of survival. These recurring tragedies led to years of debate and controversy surrounding the site's accessibility. After a particularly tragic incident in which multiple divers died, state authorities would often respond by closing Eagle's Nest to the public. The entrance would be sealed with a heavy grate, and access would be forbidden. This was done with the intention of preventing further loss of life. However, these closures were often met with strong opposition from the experienced cave diving community. They argued that closing the site would not stop determined divers, but would instead encourage clandestine illegal entries, making the activity even more dangerous. The argument made by diving organizations was that education, not prohibition, was the key to safety. They contended that a diver who has the skill and training to attempt a dive like Eagle's Nest should have the right to assume the personal risk involved. They believed that banning access to the site punishes the responsible majority for the mistakes of a few. Furthermore, closures prevent qualified instructors from using the site to train the next generation of divers. The debate pitted public safety concerns against the principles of personal freedom and responsible access for a highly specialized sport. As a result, the history of Eagle's Nest is marked by a cycle of tragedy, closure, and eventual reopening. After each closure, negotiations would take place between state agencies and diving groups, often leading to new rules and regulations. Requirements for accessing the site became stricter, demanding specific certifications and proof of experience. Warning signs were posted, graphically detailing the dangers and listing the names of those who had perished. The site became a symbol of this ongoing struggle, a place where the desire to explore clashes with the instinct to protect. Its gates have opened and closed like a camera shutter, capturing moments of both breathtaking discovery and devastating loss. Section 5. The Psychology of the Deep. To truly understand the lure of Eagle's Nest, one must delve into the psychology of the deep diver. Venturing hundreds of feet beneath the surface into a water-filled cave is an act that defies basic human survival instincts. Our bodies are not designed for such an environment. The immense pressure, the absolute darkness, the complete reliance on life support equipment create a psychological burden that is just as significant as the physical one. A successful dive at Eagle's Nest is therefore as much a mental challenge as it is a technical one. It requires a specific mindset, one characterized by meticulous planning, unwavering focus, and an almost unnatural calmness under pressure. One of the most powerful psychological factors is the management of fear. Every cave diver, no matter how experienced, feels a degree of apprehension. The key is how they process that fear. Instead of allowing it to become paralyzing panic, they learn to channel it into a state of heightened awareness. Fear becomes a tool that keeps them sharp, reminding them to constantly check their gauges, monitor their gas supply, and stick to the dive plan. This mental discipline is trained over hundreds of dives in less demanding environments. It is the ability to quiet the primal scream in the back of one's mind that says, "You are a long way from the sun," and focus entirely on the task at hand. The experience also offers a unique form of escapism and mental clarity. In the silent, weightless world of the cave, the distractions of modern life disappear. No emails, no phone calls, no deadlines. The diver's universe shrinks to the beam of their light, their gauges, and the guideline leading them through the darkness. This intense focus can induce a flow state, a feeling of being completely immersed and energized in an activity. Many divers describe the experience as a form of meditation, a way to be completely present in the moment. It is a mental reset that they find deeply rewarding and even addictive, a stark contrast to the chaotic world on the surface. Ultimately, the psychology of diving Eagle's Nest is about confronting one's own mortality in a controlled way. It is a voluntary journey into a lethal environment, made possible only by technology, training, and rigid self-control. The act of returning safely to the surface provides a profound sense of accomplishment and a renewed appreciation for life. It is a powerful affirmation of one's skills, discipline, and ability to overcome immense challenges. This deep psychological reward, this feeling of having journeyed to the edge and come back, is perhaps the most powerful lure of all. It is what keeps divers returning to the dark, silent, and unforgiving depths of Florida's underwater Everest. The journey into Eagle's Nest begins with a descent into a world of profound and sudden change. After slipping beneath the surface of the unassuming pond, a diver immediately enters the upper basin. Sunlight still penetrates the basin, illuminating the water with an ethereal green glow. The environment feels relatively benign, almost like a natural swimming pool, but this is merely the antechamber. To proceed further, one must descend through a narrow vertical opening known as the chimney. This passage is the true gateway to the underworld, a point of no return. The transition is stark and immediate. As a diver lowers into the chimney, the world above rapidly fades away. Warm, sunlit water gives way to cold darkness, a darkness that seems to swallow even strong light. The temperature plummets, a shock even through thick exposure protection, entering the constant chilly aquifer. Pressure builds relentlessly with every foot. At just 33 feet, pressure is already double. At 100 feet, at the chimney's base, pressure is 4 times surface pressure. This initial descent is critical. First, physiological challenges appear. Pressure compresses air spaces in the body. The diver must equalize ears and sinuses. Depth also changes breathing gases. Risk increases exponentially with depth. Darkness becomes absolute, a blackness alien to human senses. All sense of direction is lost without reference. The diver depends on training, their equipment, and the thin nylon guideline to find the way out. The sensory experience is overwhelming. Silence is profound, broken by the rhythmic hiss of the regulator and the sound of their own exhaled bubbles percolating toward a surface they can no longer see. It is a moment of total isolation, a feeling of being suspended in an infinite void. This is where the first test of a diver's mental fortitude occurs. Any anxiety or claustrophobia can be magnified 100-fold. The descent into darkness is not just a physical act, it is a psychological threshold, separating the world of the living from the silent, waiting abyss of Eagle's Nest. That's where the real challenge begins. After navigating the chimney, divers emerge into the ballroom, a space of breathtaking and deceptive scale. This colossal room is the heart of the upper cave system, cathedral-like void. Even the brightest dive lights can't reach its farthest walls. The ballroom floor sits around 200 feet, far beyond recreational limits. In the center, a diver is infinitesimally small, like an astronaut in a liquid cosmos. The grandeur is intoxicating. Its beauty acts like an anesthetic, dulling awareness of danger. Water clarity creates the illusion that walls are closer than they are. Tempted, a diver may drift along the ancient limestone perimeter to admire textures. The room contains massive rock formations. Overhangs create shadowed zones. Smaller alcoves invite exploration. These features plant the first seeds of disorientation. A mesmerized diver can lose track of depth. They can lose track of gas. They can lose track of their position relative to the guideline back to the exit. The chamber is a hub with tunnels branching into deeper, more complex passages. One passage slopes down into the super pit, a vertical drop to the cave's deepest points. Another tunnel, the upstream tunnel, winds for thousands of feet into the aquifer. Divers depend on permanent guidelines installed by explorers to navigate. Following the wrong line deeper instead of toward the exit is a simple but potentially fatal mistake. The ballroom's scale magnifies small navigational errors into life-threatening problems. Depth itself is a physiological threat. At 200 feet, air is roughly 7 times denser than at the surface. That pressure puts you squarely in the zone for nitrogen narcosis. Narcosis impairs judgment, slows reactions, and clouds reasoning. In such a complex space, impaired minds are the first step toward disaster. The Grand Chamber's beauty hides a very real compromise of the diver's mind. Deep within the Eagle's Nest system, far below the majestic ballroom, lies a passage with a chilling, well-earned reputation. It is a deeper section of the cave, a place where the risks multiply and the environment becomes even more hostile. This area is so notorious for its role in multiple fatalities, it has been given a grim, unofficial name, the Grim Reaper's Lair. Reaching this part of the cave requires descending well past 250 feet, into depths that push the very limits of human physiology and current diving technology. It is a place where there is absolutely no margin for error, and where the consequences of any mistake are swift and final. The journey to this deeper realm is a descent into an even more extreme environment. The passages become more restrictive, the water pressure more immense, and the psychological weight of the dive more profound. At these depths, a diver is far from the entrance, and the journey back to the surface is a long and complex one, requiring multiple, lengthy decompression stops. The sheer distance and time required to exit mean that any emergency becomes almost impossible to manage. Gas failure, medical issue. A diver in trouble at this depth has very few options, and rescue is a near impossibility. They are, for all practical purposes, entirely on their own. To deter divers from venturing into this lethal zone, a permanent warning sign was placed at its entrance by concerned explorers. It is a simple, universally understood symbol, a skull and crossbones, the emblem of death. Below it, a slate bears a stark message, warning divers to go no further unless they possess the specific training and equipment required for such extreme depths. This underwater sign serves as a grim gatekeeper, a final, silent plea for divers to turn back. Yet for some, this very warning acts as a magnet, a challenge to be overcome. The allure of pushing boundaries can be so strong that it overrides the most primal warnings of danger. The fatalities that have occurred in this section of the cave often share a common tragic theme, divers proceeding beyond their training, beyond their plan, or the limits of the gas they are breathing. It is a place that preys on overconfidence and ambition. The extreme depth amplifies the effects of gas narcosis, can induce oxygen toxicity, and makes gas consumption incredibly high. A diver who enters this zone without the right gas mixture and without a flawless plan is starting a countdown with very little time on the clock. The Grim Reaper's Lair is a testament to the unforgiving nature of Eagle's Nest, a place that silently enforces the absolute laws of physics and physiology. It's brutally unforgiving. Eagle's Nest isn't just deep, it's abyssal. Past 300 feet, standard air becomes a liability. You need trimix just to think straight, and even then, clarity is rented, not owned. The cave tightens without warning. One careless fin kick and the silt erupts. Visibility drops to zero instantly. Your world shrinks to the beam of a light that suddenly has nothing to show. Black, cold, quiet. The mind turns on itself. Time distorts, direction blurs, confidence curdles into doubt. Disorientation isn't a risk, it's a resident. And in this environment, small problems grow teeth. Sticky valve, loose bolt, snap, failed light. Each tiny issue multiplies under pressure, dominoes into task overload, and the exit clock starts screaming. This is why Eagle's Nest punishes mistakes. It doesn't negotiate. Next, the mind's betrayer arrives. Nitrogen narcosis. And after that, the tragedies that followed. One of the most insidious dangers at Eagle's Nest is an invisible one, an enemy that attacks the mind itself. It is called nitrogen narcosis, often referred to as the rapture of the deep, caused by breathing nitrogen under high partial pressures at depth. At the surface, nitrogen is mostly inert, but as a diver descends, the increased pressure forces more of it into the body's tissues, particularly the brain and the nervous system. The effect is similar to alcohol intoxication or inhaling nitrous oxide. It impairs judgment, slows reaction time, and can induce feelings of euphoria or anxiety. At Eagle's Nest depths, 150 to over 300 feet, narcosis is not a possibility, it's a certainty. Every diver to that depth will feel it to some degree. The onset can be subtle. A diver might feel unusually relaxed, overly confident, or find simple tasks like reading gauges suddenly difficult. They might fixate on something trivial, like a strangely shaped rock, while forgetting critical life support info. The danger: the diver is often unaware of their impairment. They feel fine, maybe euphoric, while their decision-making is compromised. Seasoned cave divers call it a mental fog, drunk underwater. At 200 feet on air, you might have the mental capacity of a toddler. You see your gauge says you're low on gas, but it doesn't connect. The urgency isn't there. You just think, oh, that's interesting, and continue on. That's why diving on standard air below certain depths is extremely dangerous. A simple, solvable problem on the surface can become fatal under narcosis. Technical divers combat it with specialized gas mixtures, most commonly trimix. They replace some nitrogen in the breathing gas with helium, an inert gas with much lower narcotic potential, helping maintain a clearer head at extreme depths. But trimix isn't a magic bullet. It's expensive, requires extensive training, and doesn't eliminate all risk. Even on trimix, some impairment can remain. Nitrogen narcosis is a constant, invisible threat in Eagle's Nest, a silent saboteur. While oxygen is the gas that gives us life, in the high-pressure environment of a deep cave, it can become a deadly poison. This paradoxical danger is known as oxygen toxicity or hyperoxia. It occurs when a diver breathes oxygen at too high a partial pressure for too long. The human body is designed to handle the partial pressure of oxygen found at sea level, about 0.21 atmospheres. As a diver descends, the partial pressure of every gas they breathe increases. If oxygen partial pressure exceeds roughly 1.4 to 1.6 atmospheres, it starts to damage the central nervous system. The symptoms of an acute oxygen toxicity event are terrifying and can come with little warning. The most common signs are remembered by the acronym CON-VENTID: convulsions, visual disturbances, tunnel vision, ear ringing, nausea, twitching, especially in the face, irritability, dizziness. The most feared symptom is the grand mal seizure, a convulsion. A seizure on land is serious. Underwater, it's almost always fatal. A convulsing diver will lose their regulator and drown. There is nothing a dive buddy can do to safely manage a seizing diver at depth. At Eagle's Nest, the risk of oxygen toxicity is a constant concern for technical divers. Standard air, 21% oxygen, reaches a PO2 of 1.4 atmospheres at around 218 feet. That's a depth easily reached inside the ballroom. Going deeper, or using oxygen-rich hot nitrox mixes for decompression, raises the risk. A simple mistake, breathing the wrong gas at the wrong depth, can trigger toxicity in minutes. That's why meticulous gas planning and management are paramount. Divers carry multiple tanks with different gas mixes for specific depth ranges. Their dive computers are set with alarms to warn when oxygen limits are exceeded. Every tank is labeled with contents and maximum safe operating depth. A momentary lapse, grabbing the wrong regulator, or descending a few feet too far on a rich mix, can be immediately catastrophic. In the silent depths, oxygen, the gas of life, can become a swift and silent killer. It's chilling. For every diver who ventures into the deep, a silent clock starts ticking the moment they begin their descent. This clock measures the accumulation of inert gases, nitrogen, helium, in the body's tissues. Under the immense pressure of the deep, these gases dissolve into the blood and tissues, harmless while under pressure. The danger arises during the ascent. If a diver ascends too quickly, surrounding pressure drops faster than gases can be expelled through breathing. Then gases come out of solution and form bubbles inside the body, like the fizz when opening a carbonated drink. That is decompression sickness, the bends. Effects range from mild to catastrophic. Joints, excruciating pain. Skin, rash or itching. Spinal cord, life-threatening injury. Brain, life-threatening injury, can lead to paralysis. Cognitive impairment, permanent neurological damage. Death. The risk of DCS is directly related to the depth of the dive and the amount of time spent at that depth. Eagle's nest. Deep, long dives are an extremely high risk. To avoid DCS, divers make a slow, controlled ascent with mandatory stops at specific depths, decompression. During deco stops, the diver waits at a set depth for a set time, allowing gases to slowly come out of solution and be expelled through the lungs. At Eagle's Nest, decompression obligation can be enormous. 20 minutes at 250 feet can require over 2 hours of decompression on ascent. Most of the dive is spent ascending, hanging in the water column, waiting. Long deco times add risks. Longer cold exposure, hypothermia risk. Must carry enough gas in multiple tanks and keep a healthy reserve. Running out of gas during decompression is a nightmare scenario, forcing a choice. Rapid uncontrolled ascent, certain DCS, or stay at depth, drowning. The ticking clock of decompression governs the dive plan. It dictates gas choices, the route, the timeline. An unforgiving master, ignore it, and it's an invitation to disaster. That's the hard truth. Section 7. The lifeline. Equipment and redundancy. In the utterly hostile environment of a flooded cave, a diver's equipment is their lifeline. It is a portable, personal life support system that must function flawlessly for the duration of the dive. For a technical dive at Eagle's Nest, the amount and complexity is staggering. Unlike a recreational diver with a single tank, a technical diver is festooned with gear. Back-mounted double tanks, stage or deco bottles clipped to the sides. Each tank holds a gas chosen for a specific phase. Deep bottom gas. Oxygen-rich decompression gas. The core philosophy is redundancy. Assume equipment will fail. Every critical piece must have a backup. 2 independent regulators for the main supply. Multiple dive computers. Multiple depth gauges. Multiple cutting devices. A primary dive light. At least 2 backup lights. A total loss of light is a death sentence. A primary guideline reel to ley line. Multiple safety spools for emergencies. Redundancy extends to every aspect. 2 is 1 and 1 is none. Drilled into every diver. A single vital piece is the same as none. Divers must solve failures on their own, in the dark. Practice switching to a backup regulator. Managing a free-flowing regulator. Sharing air with a buddy in an out-of-gas emergency. But this gear can also cause problems. Volume of gear increases entanglement risk. Risk of getting wedged in tight restrictions. Managing multiple tanks requires strict discipline. A mistake in gas switching can be fatal. More complexity means more points of failure. Ultimately, the equipment is only as good as the diver. Training, discipline, calm and methodical action turn gear into a lifeline. Section 8. The cascade of failure. In the aftermath of a cave diving tragedy, investigators and fellow divers often piece together the events to understand what went wrong. Rarely is a fatality caused by a single catastrophic event. Instead, it is almost always the result of a cascade of failure, a chain reaction where one small, seemingly minor problem triggers another, and then another, until the situation spirals out of control. This deadly domino effect can begin with something as simple as a forgotten piece of equipment, a moment of inattention, or a slight deviation from the dive plan. In the unforgiving environment of Eagle's Nest, there is little room to break this chain once it has started. The first link in the chain is often a seemingly manageable issue. For example, a diver's primary light might fail. This is not a life-threatening emergency on its own. That is why they carry backups. However, the stress of the failure and the seconds it takes to deploy the backup light can cause the diver to lose their place on the guideline or become separated from their buddy. This small navigational error, compounded by the initial stress, becomes the second link. Now the diver is alone, in the dark, with a less powerful light, and is no longer certain of the way out. Their breathing rate increases, consuming their gas supply faster than planned. As the diver's stress level rises, the effects of nitrogen narcosis are amplified. Their impaired judgment makes it harder to solve the now compounding problems. They might struggle to read their compass, or remember the correct direction on the guideline. This confusion is the third link. In a state of rising panic, they might begin swimming frantically, kicking up silt from the cave floor. This silt out, the fourth link, reduces visibility to zero, creating a blinding, disorienting fog. The diver is now lost, alone, in a blackout, with their mind clouded by narcosis and their gas supply dwindling at an alarming rate. This cascade illustrates how quickly a manageable situation can devolve into a fatal one. Each step in the chain reaction reduces the diver's available options and increases their psychological and physiological stress, making it even harder to cope with the next problem. This is the science of danger at Eagle's Nest. It is not about a single monster lurking in the dark, but about the insidious way that small human errors can compound in an environment that offers no forgiveness. The key to survival is not just having the right equipment, but having the mental discipline to recognize and break the chain of failure at the very first link. Section 1. The Loss of a Father and Son. Christmas Day, 2013. At Eagle's Nest, a quiet pond became the doorway to tragedy. Darren Spivey, 35, and his son Dylan Sanchez, 15, set out together that morning. It was meant to be an adventurous holiday dive and a shared memory between father and son. Neither was cave certified. They lacked the specialized training demanded by this deep overhead system. They entered on single tanks, breathing standard air. Equipment wholly inadequate for the depths below. Despite the risks, they proceeded, a plan fatally outmatched by the environment. They descended the chimney, leaving daylight and options behind. In the ballroom, depth and darkness magnified every hazard: rapid gas consumption, narcosis, and disorientation. Euphoria and overconfidence, the rapture of the deep, can dull awareness and pull divers farther from the exit. Gauges fall fast at depth. Minutes vanish. Air drains. Disoriented in the expanse, their gas dwindling, the route back grew uncertain. The exact sequence is unknown. What is known is stark. They did not resurface. Authorities were alerted, and a recovery operation began. A familiar somber protocol here. Volunteer cave divers later located Darren and Dylan at approximately 233 feet, deep in the main chamber, their tanks empty. The story made national headlines and stunned the diving world. In its wake came renewed calls to close access to untrained divers and sober reminders that open water skill is not cave training. On the shoreline, family and friends kept vigil. A Christmas night turned silent and cold. Today, a simple plaque and the still water remember them. A quiet warning at the edge of the abyss. 1981 to 2012, at least 10 confirmed deaths inside Eagle's Nest. A sober accounting of what the cave has taken. Most were experienced cave divers. Here, experience met an implacable environment. Logs and reports recount repeated incidents deep beyond the ballroom, where long penetrations and heavy decompression were routine. Patterns emerge across cases: entanglement, disorientation, and running out of gas after losing the guideline. A silt-out can turn clear water to blackout in seconds. Without the line, exits vanish. Many fatalities clustered in the main tunnel and the pit: low visibility, complex topology, and severe decompression duty. Beyond 250 feet, narcosis and gas density, slow thinking and movement. Task loading rises while gas burns fast. Small errors cascade: a snag, a broken tie-off, a moment's drift from the line. Search accounts describe divers found offline, reels empty or jammed, lights spent. Others stopped short of required decompression. The cave's geometry funnels stress into irreversible choices. Experience helps, yet here, it never guarantees survival. Training agencies refined lost line and lost buddy drills, but the environment still punished any lapse. In zero visibility, only touch and discipline remain, methodical sweeps, controlled breathing, conserve gas. Decompression in darkness stretched for hours, cold, silent, unforgiving. Each death reshaped local protocols, signage, and access debates at the nest. Yet the record from 1981 to 2012 stands. More than 10 confirmed lives lost within this maze of stone and water. A roll call no community wishes to keep. Lessons paid in blood, remembered in training. Respect the line, respect the plan, respect the cave. The loss of a diver deep within Eagle's Nest triggers a somber and highly specialized protocol. It is not a rescue mission. At the depths and distances involved, survival is an impossibility. It is a recovery mission, a dangerous, emotionally taxing operation to bring the lost diver home. The call goes out to a small, elite group of volunteer cave divers. They specialize in body recovery. These individuals are among the most skilled and mentally resilient divers in the world. They're asked to enter the same lethal environment that claimed their colleague, facing the same risks. The planning was meticulous and complex. The team first debriefed the surviving diver. They gathered every possible detail about where the incident occurred. They recorded the depth. They noted the last known location. That information was critical to formulating a safe, effective plan. The recovery divers would replicate the deep, long-duration dive profile, pushing bodies and equipment to the limit. They would descend to nearly 300 feet, into the Grim Reaper's lair. The recovery presents immense logistical and psychological challenges. Divers must navigate dark passages. They must squeeze through constrictive passages, all while managing complex life support systems. Once they locate the deceased, they must prepare the body for transport. At those depths, the work is physically demanding and requires calm precision. The deceased, with heavy equipment, must be carefully maneuvered through the cave system. It is a long, arduous journey back toward the light. On the surface, family and friends endure an agonizing period of limbo. They stand vigil by the quiet pond, waiting for any news from the depths. Each minute stretches into an eternity. They watch as support teams prepare gas tanks. They watch teams check equipment. They wait for the telltale bubbles signaling the recovery team's return. It is a silent wait, hope for closure mixed with dread. The recovery is not just retrieving a body, it is a solemn act of respect. A final, dangerous favor for a fallen member of their tribe. Section 4. The Unseen Scars, a community in mourning. When the recovery team finally surfaces, bringing the lost diver with them, the immediate crisis is over, but the psychological impact is just beginning. A fatality at a site like Eagle's Nest sends deep and lasting shockwaves through the entire cave diving community. This is a small, tight-knit world where everyone knows everyone, personally or by reputation. The loss is not an abstract news story. It is the loss of a friend, a mentor, a respected peer. The community gathers in person, the community gathers online. They share stories, they grieve, they try to make sense of the senseless. The emotional toll on the families is immeasurable. They are left with a void that can never be filled, and painful unanswered questions. They must navigate grief while also dealing with the public nature of the tragedy. News reports, online discussions, the ongoing legacy, their private loss plays out in a semi-public forum. The diving community offers financial support, emotional support, but the scar remains, a constant reminder of the price of passion. For the surviving diver, the psychological burden is immense. Trauma from witnessing a friend's death, survivor's guilt. They replay events, question every decision. They face scrutiny from the community and investigators. This can lead to PTSD, and many never return to the sport. The cave may have taken one life, but it can haunt another forever. The community enters a period of deep introspection. Divers re-examine procedures, their equipment, and their personal limits. Debates about safety, training standards, and the culture of pushing boundaries reignite. The fallen diver's name is added to the somber list. Every new tragedy adds gravitas to the site, another unseen scar beneath Florida's calm waters. Section 5. The burden of the rescuer. Among the most heavily impacted by these tragedies are the rescuers themselves, the volunteer recovery divers who descend into the darkness to bring the lost home. They are not paid first responders, they are fellow cave divers. They accept a profound and dangerous responsibility out of duty to their community. They willingly enter the same high-risk environment that led to the fatality. They face greater challenges due to the complexities of a recovery operation. Their work is an act of immense courage and compassion, but it comes at a significant personal cost. The psychological weight of their task is enormous. They must maintain absolute focus and operational calm, while handling the body of a deceased individual who was often a friend or acquaintance. They see firsthand the final tragic moments of a dive gone wrong, out-of-place equipment, the final reading on a gauge, the silent testament to a cascade of failure. These images are seared into their memory. They perform their work with professionalism and respect. Yet the emotional toll is inescapable. They face the raw reality of death in the environment they love. After the mission, rescuers are often left to process the experience on their own. The community focuses support on the victim's family. The recovery team's mental health can be overlooked. They carry the burden of what they have seen and the risks they took. They return to their own families, acutely aware of how close they came to not returning. Many recovery divers speak of a period of emotional numbness, followed by deep reflection. Some struggle with nightmares or intrusive thoughts for months or years after a difficult recovery. This burden is a hidden part of the Eagle's Nest story. The heroism of the recovery teams is quiet and understated. They do not seek recognition or praise. They see it as a solemn obligation. Yet their contribution is immeasurable. They provide closure for grieving families, allowing them to have a funeral and a final resting place for their loved one. They help the community understand what went wrong, contributing to future safety. But this service leaves an indelible mark on them. The recovery divers carry the heaviest ghosts of Eagle's Nest, silent witnesses to its unforgiving power. They must journey into the abyss and return with its tragic secrets. Section 1. The unforgiving classroom. The long and tragic history of Eagle's Nest has transformed it from a mere geological feature into a profound and unforgiving classroom. The lessons taught here are not found in textbooks. They are written in the silent, unyielding limestone and paid for with human lives. Each fatality, each near miss, has contributed to a deeper understanding of the complexities of deep cave diving. The community has learned, the hard way, about the absolute limits of human physiology, about the limits of technology. The cave itself has become a living laboratory for risk management, forcing divers and training agencies to constantly re-evaluate their standards, their equipment configurations, their entire approach to safety in extreme overhead environments. This process of learning has been painful, but necessary. The tragedies have led to tangible improvements in training protocols. Instructors now use the stories of those who perished at Eagle's Nest as powerful case studies, deconstructing the chain of events that led to disaster. They emphasize the insidious nature of nitrogen narcosis, the unforgiving mathematics of gas consumption at depth, the critical importance of breaking the cascade of failure at the very first link. The warning signs posted at the entrance and within the cave are not just deterrents. They are memorials that serve as a constant, sobering reminder of the stakes involved. The cave demands absolute humility and respect. The lessons of Eagle's Nest go beyond technical diving. The site symbolizes the immense responsibility of pursuing a high-risk passion. It forces hard questions about personal freedom, collective safety, and the ethics of pushing boundaries. The cycle of closure and reopening reflects society's struggle to balance exploration with protection. Eagle's Nest teaches that preparation is not just about the gear you carry, but the mindset you bring to the water's edge. Ultimately, the most important lesson is respect for the environment, for the laws of physics, for one's own limitations. The cave doesn't care about a diver's experience, a diver's reputation, or a diver's courage. It is an impartial judge of skill, preparation, and discipline. Those who return speak of it not as a conquest, but as a privilege. They know they were visitors in an ancient realm, and that safe return was earned through meticulous planning and adherence to hard-won lessons. Section 2. The Endless Call of the Abyss. Despite the grim history and the well-documented dangers, the allure of Eagle's Nest remains as powerful as ever. Divers continue to travel from all over the world to stand at the edge of its placid waters, to rig their complex equipment, and to answer the call of the abyss. This raises a fundamental question: why? Why do people continue to risk their lives to explore this dark, cold, and lethal place? The answer lies deep within the core of the human spirit, the same spirit that drove explorers to cross uncharted oceans, to summit the world's highest peaks, and to set foot on the moon. It is the innate, unquenchable curiosity to see what lies beyond the known horizon. This drive for exploration is about more than just adrenaline or bragging rights. For those who are drawn to the deep, it is a quest for a unique kind of knowledge and experience. It is the chance to witness a hidden world of sublime, otherworldly beauty, to float weightlessly through colossal chambers that have been silent for millennia. It is a profound mental challenge, a test of discipline and focus in an environment that demands total presence. The intense concentration required for a successful dive can be a form of meditation, a way to silence the noise of the surface world and connect with something ancient and fundamental. The risk is not the goal, it is simply the price of admission to this extraordinary realm. The stories of tragedy and survival have become an inseparable part of the Eagle's Nest legend, adding to its mystique. For the prepared and the respectful, these stories are not a deterrent, but a vital part of the tradition. They honor the memory of the fallen by learning from their mistakes and by approaching the cave with the seriousness it demands. If this story captivated you and you want to explore more of the mysteries hidden in the most challenging corners of our planet, hit subscribe. More real-life cave diving mysteries are on the way. The legacy of these explorers, the triumphant and the tragic, continues to shape the future of the sport. And so, the cycle continues. A new generation of divers, armed with better technology and a deeper understanding of the risks, will continue to feel the magnetic pull of this underwater labyrinth. They will come to test their skills, to witness its beauty, and to pay their respects to its powerful presence. The quiet pond in the Florida wilderness will remain a gateway between two worlds, a place of serene beauty and profound danger. It will continue to guard its secrets, offering them only to the few who are willing to make the journey. Deep beneath Florida's calm waters, Eagle's Nest waits, silent, dark, and unforgiving.